Thank you all so Final Fantasy I randomizer race between Sylverfyre and Demerine. My name's Leggy Starscream, and I'm going to be one of your commentators tonight. Joining me here in the booth is Shadowwalker227.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for joining us here on RPG Valkyries. And we have a fun race in store tonight. Sylverfyre and Demerine are going to be our runners tonight.
Marathon
and
life.
They are going to do a free airship. And with a couple twists in here, we're going to have 100 to 200%
good
losses.
Valkyries.
So every enemy is going to be at least as difficult as it is in the vanilla game. Possibly twice as hard.
Additionally, because we have the free airship, we've done a little bit of modification to make things not quite the jet seeds one would imagine from that. In the vanilla game, you need to do some questing around to collect some key items early on. So those have been re-enabled. So before the racers can get anything from Sarda or the Sage at Crescent Lake, they're going to have to kill the vampire and the lich respectively.
Yep. Fortunately, they do have early ordeals, and we've got a couple of incentive locations tonight. So Ice Cave, Castle Ordeals, and the Locked Chest in the Marsh Cave are all incentive locations. And tonight we have NPCs, both main NPCs and fetch quest NPCs, shuffled about. So we could be getting any key item from anybody.
Yeah, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with this particular randomizer, what incentive means is that it is really, really good odds that one of the important key items we need is going to be there. There are situations where the randomizer just gives them garbage. Normally those happen when we have more key items than we do slots, or maybe that's the other way around. But fundamentally, what we're going to see the runners doing is with that free airship, going around trying to get the resources and the key items they need to start grinding up.
Right. So tonight's key items, we have all of the main quest items for the game. So things like the crown, the mystic key, the crystal, all of the main quest items and other quest items. So things like the ruby, the adamant, the tail is also turned on as an incentive item. And as far as actual equipment goes, the white shirt, which casts Invis 2, and the Thor hammer, which casts Lit 2, are incentivized.
Yup, and those are going to be some really nice items early on.
Alright, and it looks like our runners are already off to the races. White Magic, we've got Life 2 available, and immediately both of our runners are going to get themselves a White Mage, so that way they can actually take Life 2 into their party. It is in the slot 2 of level 1 White Magic, which means it is only accessible by White Mage.
Yep, that's one of the gambles of taking a red mage, is if you grab a black mage or a white mage, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll get access to any of the spells of that school. Whereas red mage, there are some spells in the list that you're just going to get locked out of, but you do get access to both schools of magic. So it's this pro-con trade-off deal.
Yep, so now we see a little bit of party divergence. Looks like Sylverfyre opting to go with White Mage, Black Mage, whereas Demerine going with Red Mage, White Mage. So we'll see how that difference plays into our runner's journey.
Yeah, unfortunately, having that red mage there doesn't mean that there's going to be that extra life 2 caster because it is white mage only, but it will mean that if there is other useful white magic later on, Demerine will have access to some of what Sylverfyre won't.
So it's worth noting that both of our runners tonight are taking a fighter and a black belt because those are required classes. Those were classes that they were not able to switch out at the beginning. So those two are forced, and the other two are optional. So that's where the divergence for the runners is coming in. The Sylverfyre is going to give us our first look at Garland.
Yeah, Garland, the first boss of the game. Usually a bit of a pushover if you have anything resembling, and goes down to a single Bane cast. Bane being one of the auto-kill spells in this game.
Yep, so Bane has... Ooh, and zombies have Fire 3, so not exactly a free dungeon is Temple of Fiends.
While Demerine is going over to check out what the pirates have going on, blasting them down with a lead 3. Pirates can be a little scary. Unsafe Pirates flag is on, which means they could have that Fire 3 we saw. They could have anything up to and including nuke. But they go down, and Demerine gets the crown.
Okay, so we've got the crown from Vicky, and we've got the canoe and the mystic key from the king and princess. So we're going to have access to a bunch of chests early on.
Demerine finds pro rings and opal bracelets for sale, those both of which are very, very good pieces of armor that will basically make a party member be able to take just about any physical hit in the late game, and finds Fade and Cure 4 in the white magic shop at level 2, which means her red mage will be able to learn all of those spells.
Yeah, this is a really good seed for a red mage already. Between Lit 2, Bane, Fade, and Cure 4, that's some great level 1 and 2 magic to get rolling. So with that Mystic Key, I imagine Sylverfyre is going to go open up a bunch of chests. Demerine is now going to go into Temple of Fiends and is going to quickly also join in the venture to go open a bunch of chests. There's 6 chests in Corneria, 4 in Elfland, 12 in the Dwarf Cave, and 3 in Northwest Castle that are all free access once you have the Mystic Key, and a couple extras that open up elsewhere.
Right. The big ones that we'll want to pay attention to that aren't free are down in that most cursed of places, the Marsh Cave.
Indeed, and we are very likely going to have to go there as the Marsh Cave is incentivized. So we will be going to pay a visit to that deep, dark place that we don't like to talk about in the Final Fantasy Randomizer community.
You know, it's nice to know that the Marsh Cave sucks in the randomizer too, just like it did in the vanilla game.
Yeah, and it's actually very interesting because what makes the Marsh Cave difficult in the randomizer is that there are such a wide variety of enemies that if anything lands that's nasty on any of those enemies, it can be a real drag trying to get down to those incentive chests and carry your loot out.
Yeah, so in those Corneria Castle chests is an ice sword, and that's going to be a really, really good pickup for our fighter today. Ice sword being not the best sword that the fighter can equip, but I'd say third.
I mean, short of the Mazmune, which is equipable by any character, the only other better sword that you could find for him at this point in the game would be the Sun Sword until he promotes.
Exactly. And it's going to be interesting seeing how these strats pan out, because we do have that fighter and the black belt, which are the two kind of pair of metagame defining classes. The black belt being kind of weak in the beginning because you can only punch for just a little bit. Whereas the fighter, you can get some really good equipment early on. But if you find a good place to grind and level up that black belt to 32 or 42, those being two specific level breakpoints, the black belt can just go all God, pick your favorite anime reference for how hard that black belt's going to be punching.
I've heard Saitama, I've heard Goku. Pick your poison. If you're getting punched by a level 32 or 42 black belt, it is going to hurt a lot. And we see our first loose item.
Yeah. We have the chime down in the dwarf cave, locked up behind that mystic key.
So the chime is actually very interesting. It gives our runners the option of going into the Mirage Tower very early, which is a late game dungeon, but there are some enemies that give a lot of experience points, and especially with Demerine having Fade on 2 characters, that's some very juicy experience points that she could opt to go get.
Yeah, not to mention that there's a large number of chests that are just within running distance, even if anything is nasty. Demerine not going there right away, picking up the bottle from Astos. I don't know why Astos had that fairy. Must have been cosplaying Link beforehand.
So one thing you'll notice on our runner screens, at the very top of their trackers, you'll see on Sylverfyre's side a 2.4x plus 120, and our Demerine side 2.6x plus 130. What those numbers refer to are experience points modified from the fights. So in any given fight, say Demerine would be getting 100 experience points per character, that's multiplied by 2.6, and then an additional 130 added on to that. So that 100 experience points would be turned into 390 experience points. And that number is going to go up as they collect additional key items. So one thing our runners really want to prioritize is finding those key items early in the game to get themselves some extra experience points before they do any serious farming.
Yeah, and as you talk about that, Scylla's giving us a quick tour of Elfland, finding Brack and Lit 3 in the Black Magic Shop, Sun Sword, and, well, if you need any more ice swords, they're also for sale there. And they're now taking a look at the black magic. We see Quake is the best spell there, but that's mostly for killing Lich, and nothing really of note in the white magic level 4 slots.
I find it ironic that level 3 black magic is a repeat of level 1 black magic with just upgraded spells. You know, we had Bane in Lit 2, now we've got Brack in Lit 3. That amuses.
I mean, that feels kind of vanilla, you know, Fire 2, Lit 2.
Oh yeah, very appropriate.
Folks, can I jump in for a minute here to talk a little marathon?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, thank you very much. So I wanted to acknowledge we got a raid from Retro Gaming Live TV before this race started. So thank you very much for that. And for those who might have been coming over or just joining the channel, you are currently watching RPGs We Love 2. It is a week-long RPG speedrunning marathon being put on by the RPG Valkyries, and they are taking donations. It is for the benefit of the RPG Valkyries to attend RPG Limit Break 2019 in Salt Lake City this May. It's going to cover things like flights, hotels, incidentals, so on and so forth. So the donations that you are making in that link that Scala has just dropped into chat will go directly towards that cause. Now, I also want to give a shout out to DJ Conkers, who give us a subscription. Thank you very much for doing that. Any donations that are made via subscriptions or bits are going to go towards the Take This Foundation, which is a charity that the Valkyries have raised money for in the past. So those funds aren't going towards the RPG Limit Break fund, but they are still going to be applied in kind. So you definitely are welcome to do that. Now, as far as the donations themselves go, we do have plenty of incentives that you can donate to if you type in the incentives command. That's going to bring up a list of what you can apply them to. As far as this run goes, there was an incentive that was met for both runners. They will need to hunt down and defeat Warmech when they get to that point. So you'll want to look forward to that. So please, by all means, check out the incentives, make your donations, and on behalf of the RPG Valkyries, we very much appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, Vanny. And unfortunately, it looks like Demerine is not having a fun time in the Marsh Cave. She has also found now that the zombies have Fire 3 and is having a rough go of it.
And it looks like Syl is doing the last of their Mystic Key checks, finally finding the chime that Demerine found earlier in the Dwarf Cave.
Yep, so I'll be interested to see where exactly Sylverfyre goes. Does she follow suit and go into Marsh Cave? Looks like she's going to check level 5 magic first.
And it looks like Sylverfyre, who is a they, finds life, cure 3, and heal 2 in the town of Melmond. Not the best magic, but oh, there's new. Nuke specifically being the most powerful black magic spell in the game. It's something that you really, really want to use to steamroll people. At level 5, you're not necessarily going to see a lot of charges unless you grind that black mage up all the way, but it's still going to be nice to have in your back pocket, especially if you run into some particularly nasty enemies.
Yeah, Nuke is an amazing spell. It does 100 to 400 non-elemental damage to every opponent that you're facing at a time. So a lot of damage is dished out with.
So one of the features of this game is that there are specific locations on the overworld, well, in dungeons specifically, where there are going to be enemies that spawn repeatedly over and over and over again. You will always see the same formation, which may or may not always contain the same number of enemies, but these are our grind tiles. And it looks like Sylverfyre has found frost dragons in the locked chests of Temple of Fiends.
Yeah, frost dragons are an interesting option here. They provide a good deal of EXP, and they're not that difficult to kill, so that could be a potential source of early game experience points. Meanwhile, Demerine has found a pack of whiz mummies and mummies in Marsh Cave, which give a good amount of experience points, but that's a few too many enemies for the early game to be grinding on.
I mean, when you've got Life 2 and Cure 4, it's easy to walk away from fights like that. And it looks like Syl's running around and checking the good old Cardia Islands. You've got, I think it's 10 chests just out there in the open if you can survive the overworld walk, because you can't always park your airship super close.
I think it's 12? There's 3 in the 2 small ones, and then... Oh no, it's 11 or 12, I don't remember exactly. Around a...
I mean, 10-ish.
Right, so it looks like Syl is prioritizing some free chests and exploration, which certainly makes a lot of sense. Demerine went for the incentive item, which she found the canal, which is going to normally allow a boat to sail through the inner sea into the outer sea, but both of them already have a much better boat flying around the world, so not as much of a good thing today.
Sylverfyre landing directly on the caravan spot, a glitch in the original game that the devs have decided to leave in, and finds not the bottle but the cube for sale there. Then goes off to check the town of Gaia, where unfortunately Temper is a level 7 spell this seed.
So Mognog asking in chat, the female sprites that our runners are using, is that a part of the Final Fantasy Randomizer? That is not. They're actually using the Valkyries of Light sprite hack. The only difference that it makes to the Final Fantasy ROM is that it changes the sprites from being the vanilla traditional sprites to being an all-female cast.
Ooh, level 8 exit and warp from the looks of it, too. So, unfortunately, not a lot of room to get out of places fast this season.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that exit and warp are both at level 8. They provide a great deal of utility to your party as you're exploring different areas. Exit allows you to completely leave a dungeon, no matter how deep in the dungeon you are, and warp simply takes you up one floor from wherever you entered into the floor that you're on. Both have a lot of utility provided to our runners when they're able to cast them and explore through dungeons quickly that way.
Sylverfyre talking to the tiny fairy at the lake and learns the power of rock today, getting the loot, which is one of the most important and most frustrating items in this randomizer, because it's only required to get you all the way to the bottom of the Temple of Fiends. It is often one of the items that the randomizer likes to hide in weird and tricky places. And so finding that, getting that out of the way means that we won't... The odds of us having to hunt down that one last key item in some random dungeon somewhere have gone down a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting in the Final Fantasy Randomizer how few of the key items that you normally find throughout the vanilla playthrough of the game are actually required to get through areas. And loot is one of the ones that is unfortunately a required key item in most formats. But fortunately, our runners not having any difficulty today finding it. That'll be great news for them.
Yeah. So for those of you keeping score at home, for this seed and this flag set in particular, our runners are going to need to find the chime of the cube, which they already have. They're going to need to find the rod, and they're going to need to find the oxyale. And with those key items, they will be able to defeat all of the 4 fiends of the elements in their respective dungeons. Then, once they have those, they can go into the Temple of Fiends Revisited, and they will need the Mystic Key and the loot, which they almost have all of, as Demerine is off to get her loot right now.
So it looks like Sylverfyre is going to check out the volcano. This might be just an armory dive to check a bunch of chests here in the beginning, or could be a deeper dive. Unfortunately, lost the white mage already, so I'm gonna guess that this isn't going to be a deep dive, at least for now.
And it looks like Demerine is hanging out with our dinosaur friends on her way over to the Castle Ordeals. One of the things to note about Castle Ordeals is, if any of you have played this vanilla game, you'll recall that there's a weird little teleporter maze in there that you're going to have to maneuver your way around. The devs decided to take that and randomize that maze, so even if you remember your tricks from how to get through there in vanilla, you're gonna have to do some guessing on your way through in the randomizer.
It always amuses me. There's so many times that we've played the randomizer and have the pillar maze shuffled that I'm just so used to the pillar maze being shuffled. Sometimes people will sneak in, turning the pillar maze off, and it's always funny because it's like, wait, how do I do this again? I forgot.
I mean, it's worse because I also speedrun a few different versions of this, and even with that in the back of my head, I still forget that, sometimes the pillar maze cannot be randomized in the random.
like some money and a pro cape so far out of the Volcano Armory. Finds a red D tile. That's also some nice experience point.
Yeah, I think Syl saw some of these earlier. I'm not sure if they took a wipe or needed to reset on the way out or something, but yeah, dragons hit hard. That's just about all I can say on that one.
Yeah, the red D is certainly punching quite hard, considering the fighter only has 168 hit points, and the red D was punching for about 90 damage, so a lot of damage.
But luckily, Life 2 solves a lot of problems.
Life 2 is indeed a great pick-me-up.
I'm going to jump in here and talk a little about some of the incentives we've got coming up here, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Great. So coming up after this run of the randomizer here is going to be Professor Palmer running Earthlock. There's a couple incentives here. We've got some Princess and the Frog skins that you can donate for, and also to optionally fight the Hollow Knight, which is described as a super mega boss. So that sounds like a good place to put money. Speaking of a good place to put money, the next one is going to be Shenmue 2. Apparently, there's a duck racing mini game in here. If you want to check that out, that needs $200 to make that happen. And then on top of that, apparently there are 6 different ducks on which you can bet, and they all have different colored ribbons. So you can you can have them place bets on a particular duck. After that is going to be Final Fantasy IV Unprecedented Crisis, run by Couch23. You can name Cecil and Kane, as well as decide how we kill Zeramis. Now, something to note about the names on there. The leader in the clubhouse for both Cecil and Kane currently is Edward. So if we are cool with this, then you can reinforce that. If we are not cool with this, then I'm pretty sure you know what to do. One more to mention here. After that is going to be a run of Lunar 2 by High Spirits. You can turn on battle voices. You can show off bromides. Or you can have High Spirits sing the ending song. And I think that's well worth the $200 that it will need in order for that to happen. So by all means, check out the incentive sheet. Check out that link that Scala just put there. That is how you donate directly to the cause here for the RPG Valkyries. And if you want to see some fun stuff happen in some great runs that are coming up, that's how you're going to want to make it happen.
So, Sylverfyre is visiting the Earth Cave and has found 2 really nice things here in the first floor of Earth. First off, found a ribbon out of the chest here in the top room. And if any of you are familiar with the ribbon, in Final Fantasy games, it is commonly a extremely good accessory, and in Final Fantasy 1 it started it all. It has very low actual armor stats, but it gives you resistance against every element. Meaning that you're going to take less damage from spells and be less susceptible to status magic and death magic.
Whereas Demerine has just completed her run through Castle Ordeals, finding the incentivized white shirt at the end of it. The white shirt being not only a great piece of armor for the White Wizard after promotion, but also gives Demi the ability to cast Invisibility 2, which will be so vital for a lot of the endgame bosses.
I'm going to jump in here with a donation we just received. We got $5 from Neon Gray, who says, "You know what would improve this run? A lust dagger." Hope you got your money's worth there, Neon.
Yes. If you have not seen the Final Fantasy 1 PSP race from the Speedrun Ragnarok marathon that the RPG Valkyries put on, I cannot recommend a more fun race to watch.
Yeah, so then I actually hosted that run too, and hence where that that meme came from. But yes, that was extremely wild. That one also involved Demerine here, if I recall.
Yeah, it was Demerine versus Sonny Wrath, whom you all may recall from the Free Enterprise race we had. What was it, yesterday?
Yep.
Time is weird.
Alright, so Sylverfyre is now checking out the Hall of Giants to see what the two trap tiles here are. Unfortunately, Phantom and Gargoyles are not prime real estate as far as trap tiles go, and it's going to pass on both of them.
Yeah, the Phantom in vanilla, the rewards for killing it are exactly 1 experience point and 1 piece of gold. Not exactly what you really want to do your grind.
And the randomizer doesn't make it much better. Meanwhile, Demerine is exploring the waterfall and looks to be most of the way towards the room at the end, so we will soon be seeing what the robot in the waterfall has in store for us today.
As Sylverfyre makes their way down, retreading some of the ground that Demerine did earlier, slogging through that marsh cave.
It's a deep, dark place. We don't like to talk about Marsh Cave. Waterfall, we got a house, we got some money, and the robot has a boat. Unfortunate.
I mean, it's really nice that the robot wants to show off its ride, but I think we've got it beat.
I just want to know how he gets it from the waterfall all the way over to Carnaria where that boat is going to spawn.
I've always viewed it as getting the deed to the ship. You know, just like, yeah, my car's parked over in Corneria, here are the keys, go have fun.
A little bit of valet parking for you. Only in this case, you know, go all the way across the world to go get your new boat. Camellia says Marsh Cave is best cave. Do you hate us? Also, Jerzen with the 8-bit theater. Love it. Frost Giant and Frost Wolves are an interesting trap tile. A little bit of experience points available from them. Not a great endgame grind, though.
Yeah, but anything you can kill quickly just to get a little bit of experience going is so useful at this stage of the game, even. I haven't stared at the runners' levels in a little bit, but I think they're probably early teens, if I had to guess. And so you don't really want to be going into dungeons, especially with the bosses clamped, until you're like late teens, maybe early 20s. You can do it earlier if you're feeling lucky, but the bosses are clamped to 200%, just like the enemies, which means they will be at least as strong as they are in vanilla, and maybe twice as strong on every single individual stat independently.
Yeah, it's interesting how the randomizer works. Talking about the individual stats being randomized, that means an enemy could have, you know, more attack power than normal, but it could have weaker absorb or weaker evasion than normal.
Well, or in this case, because they're clamped, it'll be exactly as normal.
Well,
in the best case.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so, which means that some enemies, such as one of the most infamous bosses in the randomizer, Kraken, are quite scary.
Kraken loves hugs. He loves to hug all the white mages, and we will see just how many white mages Kraken claims with his hugs today.
Indeed. Though one of the things I did want to chat about a little bit was the fact that our runners have a fighter and a monk. Given what you've seen so far, how do you think you want to handle the fact that you probably want to grind one or the other one up all the way?
So I think you have to make a decision early as to how you want to approach this. I think there's two different paths you can take. You could either try to do a grind with the black belt in the early game to try and get him to level 32 and punch your way to glory. Or you could do what it looks like Demerine is doing and completely kill off that black belt and funnel the experience points from that black belt into the rest of your party members. A lesser-known attribute of Final Fantasy I is that when you receive experience points in battle, those experience points are actually distributed evenly among all living party members. So by intentionally getting one of your characters killed off, as Demerine has done, all of the rest of our party are actually gaining more experience points than they would be otherwise.
Yeah. In the community, we usually refer to the designated corpse as our Dan. So if you hear us name drop, shoutouts to Dan, your service will be remembered.
And just as I say that, Demerine brings the black belt back to life. So what do I know what I'm talking about?
So, actually, and Demerine did another really interesting thing right there. She ran around outside a bit and then reset before jumping into Ice Cave. Sorry. Do you want to talk about why she did that?
Yeah, so one of the things that at least Demerine has picked up on, and I imagine Sylv has also picked up on, is the fact that there is an encounter that happens really close after a power cycle. What I mean by power cycle is a hard power cycling of the game. So turning the game off and then back on, or in the case of an emulator, just doing what's called a power reset. It resets the RNG values that happen when the NES first turns on. So there's always going to be that first fight that's like 5 or 6 steps after a power cycle. And so what Demerine has done is do a power cycle after saving, run 5 or 6 steps to get that first encounter, and then do what's called a soft reset, which is as simple as pushing the reset button on the NES but leaving the power on. And what that does is it reloads back to her save, but it keeps the RNG values where they were at. So you take those couple steps to burn off the encounter, do a reset, and then you get a longer run to get further progress into the dungeon before getting an encounter.
Oof, Ice Cave does not look fun. Those wraiths have stone poison. There's actually 2 skills in the game named poison. They both are god-awful. One of them does a truckload of damage, and the other one just petrifies basically your entire party in one shot.
Yeah, fortunately, Sylv does have a ribbon and could avoid that with one character, but that's still going to be a lot of other petrified characters that we're dealing with. That might actually be another interesting reason to do a power grind on the Black Belt. Black Belt has the highest magic defense growth of the entire Light Warrior party, gaining 4 magic defense per level. And so by increasing a character's magic defense, it makes them less susceptible to status magics and status attacks.
And it's definitely advisable, though the value of it is occasionally debated within the community. to do that grinding on your black belt before you promote them, because after you promote, the master, the promoted version, the black belt, only gets 1 point of magic defense per level versus the 4 that the unpromoted black belt does.
So Demerine has now also found that giants have toxic. Fortunately, with all the money that Demerine has accrued, she was able to purchase a full set of pro rings for her party members. So pro ring provides resistance to death status magic, and toxic and rub are both instant kills that fall under that death element category. And so that is going to give them a very high resistance, only being hit 3 out of 256 times from those spells and skills.
Yeah, so this game has a bug in it where if you are immune to a status, there is still that small chance that you'll just be hit for the full effect through your immunity anyway. Luckily for us, this goes both ways, and so sometimes you can get runners who manage to do an insta-kill spell on, say, Chaos. And it looks like Sylverfyre is making their way through Castle Ordeals, also running that first encounter off of the power cycle, as Demerine is taking a look at the Volcano Armory, which is the common term for that series of chests she's opening right now.
Yeah, I'm a little bit... Sorry, Vonnie, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, finish your thought, and I'll jump in.
I was going to say that I'm a little bit surprised that our runners haven't stopped to take a grind. Especially, I know Sylverfyre found a 3-mage encounter. I believe it was in Northwest Castle off one of the trap tiles. That would be some very good experience points available to our runners already.
All right, so I just wanted to jump in because I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've got coming up for these next couple days on the schedule. We've got a pretty solid lineup for these next couple days. So after this race is over, you are going to see Earthlock being run by Professor Palmer. Then Witch's Hex, one of the Valkyries, is going to be running Odin Sphere. Is it Leaf Thrustseer? I believe that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, Shenmue 2 will follow that. That's being run by Count Gooby. Then Final Fantasy IV Unprecedented Crisis. You're going to get a run from Couch 23 of that. High Spirits will then be running Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete. You'll get even more Final Fantasy IV, this time in the vanilla variety. That's going to be No 64 run by Penguinator. 2 runs back-to-back by Dragon Darts are going to follow that. First Vagrant Story, and then Swords and Serpents. Again, another Valkyrie, Sparkover, will be running Dragon Warrior, any percent, the vanilla. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, again involving another Valkyrie, this time the RPG chick, and it looks like a race against Calamity. Yagamoth is going to be doing a 1P2C run of Secret of Mana. There will be a Delta Rune run by Lightning. Again, another Valkyrie, Scala Kitty, will be racing Final Fantasy Legend 2 against Invenerable. And then to round out Wednesday, we'll have one of our commentators here, Leggy Starscream, that'll be running Final Fantasy 1 Dawn of Souls. So a lot of great stuff coming up. So you can check out the schedule that Scala has put there in chat. Make sure to tune in to some of your favorite runs.
Wait, who's this Leggy Starscream character? Never heard of her.
I don't know.
I'm hearing from
Final Fantasy
her.
1 randomizer.
Looks like Demerine is making her way down deeper into the volcano, checking out the second big clump of chests on the 4th floor, as Syl's making their way through the rest of Ordeals.
Yeah, I'm interested in how Demerine is going to approach the volcano. Whether this is a deep dive to check chests, look for trap tiles, or if this is an actual attempt to try and clear the volcano. Carrie can do a lot of damage.
Looks like it's an actual attempt to take care of this red dragon, at least. As she runs away.
That makes sense. If you've got a couple of people that aren't so good at running away, you know, throw a couple attacks out, maybe you get some lucky swings.
But yeah, Carrie is always one of the interesting fiends because she resists most of the elemental magic. She is susceptible to the Confuse spell, but I don't think we've seen the Wizard Staff or that spell available in shops. And depending on how she rolls, Carrie can either just be a complete pushover or almost as bad as fiends like Tiamat or Kraken.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of races where Carrie rolled on the nutty side of dealing damage. I believe the record I've seen from Carrie 1 was something like 17 hits for 2,100 damage, which is just absolutely insane.
That's disgusting. Who allowed that?
That might have been the 500% all white mage seed on the bonus stream from the end of the last year's spring tournament.
Well, I mean, if you're rolling 500%, fair. And, we run into an Agama, which, if you're familiar with the vanilla speedrun, you know how much we love to beat up Agamas.
Do you have any facts you'd like to dispense here?
Agama fact. Agamas are the traditional unit of experience point measure in the community. One Agama is really useful, and it looks like chat's joining in.
Chat joining in on a meme? No way.
I think the best Agama fact that I've ever heard was Agama facts. Agamas always have death touch, but most of the time they wear gloves to be knight. Heard that one on a particular seed where our runners unfortunately found out that Agamas had death touch, and it was an unpleasant.
Woof. And it does look like Demerine is taking on the Fiend of Fire Carrie and gets I think that was stop off?
That was stop. Stop is, I don't remember whether it's time or status magic, but it's a lesser known status spell that does actually work from time to time. A good way to keep Carrie from killing your party members is to have her paralyzed, and Stop will do the job.
Stop, and I just verified this, is in fact Time Elemental, which there is only one enemy in the game that resists. That being Chaos himself.
Yep. Fun fact, even Warmech does not resist time magic. Unfortunately, the two time spells in the game, Stop and Zap, have low enough accuracy that they might as well be resisted by Chaos, or by Warmech, because they will only hit him 3 out of 256 times.
And with the Fiend paralyzed and helpless, Demerine is the first one of our runners on the orb board. Say that 5 times fast.
I think I'll pass on that. Sylverfyre has a couple extra levels as opposed to when Demerine came through the waterfall, and has elected to pick up a couple of juicy mud goals on the way through, netting some nice experience points.
And of course, picking up their inferior water boat.
So, unfortunately, Demerine has run largely out of options as far as where to explore next, and is kind of being funneled back into the ice cave, as we need the Oxyale in order to go through the Sea Shrine. We need the Rod to go through Earth Cave, and we need the Cube in order to complete Mirage and Sky. So unfortunately, it's back to the ice cave, and hopefully we'll have a better time dealing with some of these stone poison enemies.
Luckily, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't recall where we found our cubes, but really what's stopping us from going up to Sky is everyone in chat donated for the suffering of the runners. In the Sky Tower, there is a robot. Its name is Warmech. It likes to be mean. Our runners have to take it down.
I mean, personally, even with the chime, I would have been pretty tempted to go into Mirage a long time ago with level 2 Fade and take advantage of all the experience points that are available there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it isn't incentivized, and Ice Cave is, you probably will need to go here at some point, unless it's like the Thor hammer, or I don't know, the tail, which you may or may not want. Demarine's going for that side chest. And it looks like Syl is going to join in this cave of suffering.
Speaking of being incentivized, I feel it is my duty to talk about some more of the incentives that are coming up. There are several games here where you can name characters that currently have a whole bunch of zeros sitting next to them. So this is a fantastic opportunity for those of you that are planning, or even if you're not planning, to be watching this marathon over the next few days, to throw down some money for a good cause and also get a name of your choice on some select characters. So please take a look at the incentive sheets that was just posted there. Go to that donate link that was also just posted, and make sure to apply. Make sure to be clear in your donation comments where you would like that money to be assigned, and we will make sure that it happens accordingly.
Names are important, and here's your chance to make them interesting. Looks like both of our runners are having a terrible time down here in Ice Cave. Demerine taking a nasty wipe to some Fire 3 zombies. Syl just noping the heck out and going back to that red dragon we saw earlier, possibly to grind on them for a little bit.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think the better option for grinding would be the mages in Northwest Castle, just because it's a guaranteed fight. Mages aren't typically that dangerous in the randomizer specifically, because in the vanilla game they have some nasty spells. They're the ones that normally come with like Fire 3 and Lit 3. I think they have both of those. And they normally do a lot of damage in the vanilla game, but in the randomizer, they're typically not that dangerous. They're worth good experience points.
Yeah, I know that I saw both of them trying those mages earlier, but I forget whether or not they had anything particularly nasty.
Certainly possible that I just missed it. It looks like Demerine has gotten to the point of dropping down in the ice cave, so we are much closer to checking what that incentive chest is. Hopefully it will have some form of progression.
Yeah, she made it as far as the two chests on the upper left side of this floor before the wipe happened, and ooh, there's the Excalibur sword.
Excalibur is a great weapon. It's only equipable by knights, but once we have the tail, we would be able to turn that fighter into a knight. But one of the really nice things about the Excalibur is that it does bonus damage against every enemy type. One of the hidden stats of enemies is that they all have different types. So some of them are obvious, like dragons are dragon type. Some of them are less obvious, like imps are giant type. But all of those types get bonus damage from the Excal. So knights with the Excalibur do lots of damage to just about any enemy in the game outside of Chaos and Warmech.
Yeah. So Shadow Walker, I know that one of the things in Final Fantasy 1 is that everyone has a favorite endgame sword for the fighter, or I guess the knight. Some people swear by the powerful critical hits of the Vorpal sword. Some people swear by the all-around wonderfulness of the Mazmune, my sword of choice. I've even heard legends and tales of someone who swore by the awesomeness of the unpromoted promoted equipability of the Sun Sword. Where do you fall in this?
I think that largely depends on the seed. I'm of the camp that there's a right tool for every situation, right? So if we're talking about going through the majority of the game, I think the Excalibur is one of the best weapons, largely because I would prefer that Mazmune being on somebody else to have more high damage physical attackers. If the enemies have high stats, or you're dealing with stat clamping as we are in this situation, I really think the Vorpal with its high crit rate is kind of the way to go. And if you're dealing with 200% or less enemies and not clamped, I think Mazmune is the way to go for the end game.
It looks like Demerine is finally giving us our first look inside that Mirage Tower.
Yeah, it looks like the Ice Cave dive is just not happening at this point. Had enough of it, and it's time to go somewhere else. And that's an important skill in, I think, any randomizer, but definitely Final Fantasy randomizer for sure. Knowing when to call it quits on a given play or choice that you're making, and when to go elsewhere. And is actually immediately rewarded as Demerine finds the Oxyale in the Mirage 1.
Hopefully these vampires don't prevent her from leaving with it. But it looks like a couple of fades and they're down, as Syl is tracing their way through the second to last floor of the volcano. There wasn't anything super critical here, but I'm sure that there's a couple of tools that they can pick up.
Alright, so Demerine hopefully going to run the Oxyale out, and I'm sure is going to save that, as the extra key item is not only progression, but it's also going to be additional experience points and gold going through and fighting more enemies. So definitely a valuable pickup. And let's see if Sylverfyre has as good of luck as Demerine in clearing the final stages of the volcano. Justin MDP saying, not familiar with the Rando enough to determine if this is a Skullakitty classic. Fun fact, classic can also refer to, the original, and given that this is Skullakitty's first seed rolling for Final Fantasy Randomizer, I say this is definitely the classic Skullakitty.
Well, considering there's only been one, it's also the best seed she's ever rolled too.
True, but by that token, it's also the worst.
Is the glass half full or empty?
Yes.
Exactly.
You have the optimist who looks at the glass as half full, the pessimist who looks at the glass as half empty, and the scientist who looks at the glass as 50% full. Sorry, exactly 50% contents. or something. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've heard that one.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I want to take an opportunity here to talk a little bit about this marathon and what's going on here. For those that may be just joining us, you are watching RPGs We Love 2, being hosted by the RPG Valkyries all week long. We are just wrapping up day 2 here of the marathon. We still got lots of action to come. We are raising money for a certain RPG Valkyries to attend the RPG Limit Break event being held in Salt Lake City this May. So your donations are going towards paying for things like their flights, their hotels, incidentals, food, so on and so forth. So you see we've got our donation tracker right there in the middle. We're very close to getting to halfway meeting our goal. So if we could make that happen before the end of this race, that would be awesome. So by all means, make your donations there. We just got a link in chat for where you can go to make those donations. There are plenty of incentives that you can put your money towards as well, just like you are used to with marathons. So please, by all means, make those funds go towards that great purpose. Speaking of RPG Valkyries being at RPG Limit Break, 2 of them actually have runs in it, and they'll actually be racing each other. It will be our Sylverfyre here, as well as Sparkover. They are going to be running a Dragon Warrior randomizer race against each other. So you want to help them get there, and also be sure to tune in for what I'm sure is going to be a great race. So for everyone that is thinking about making a donation, or perhaps already has, on behalf of the RPG Valkyries, we thank you very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated.
All right, and while that was happening, Sylverfyre went down and got their first orb, taking down the Fiend of Fire carry, and unfortunately, they're not going to be able to pick up the key item from the Circle of Sages, because that is actually gated behind the Lich down in the bottom of the Earth Cave.
You know, this is yet another example of me, as I'm talking about my blurbs and stuff. We get a donation here in the meantime. My man, Professor Palmer, has donated $10 and says, put this towards Hollow Knight percent. Palmer, thank you very much for the donation, and I will go apply that right.
And
Demerine has also found her ribbon sitting in Earth 1. Now is going to be a lot safer, hopefully, going around the overworld and through dungeons.
yeah, I'm of the mind that your very first ribbon should always go on your healer, because that way, in case there's some nasty instant kill or just super strong elemental magic, they'll be able to pick you back up after a nasty wipe.
It's interesting, the different camps of the first ribbon as well. There's a lot of debate as to whether you put the ribbon on the healer or whether you put the ribbon on the tank that's more likely to survive through fights. I don't know. I think I waver. I like it on the White Mage. I think I'd like my first on the White Mage and the second on the tank.
I'm usually in the same camp, and if I only have one, I'll switch it to the tank before, like, big boss fights where I'm going to be heading out right away. But having it on your White Mage is so important for picking your party back up in case there's something nasty floating around in a dungeon somewhere.
Definitely. We have already seen many nasty things, particularly through Ice Cave, which we still have not seen what the incentive item is there, so hopefully someday we will see that.
Well, still looks like they've got a strong chance with that 20-something soft potions that will greatly help against that status poison attack that I think it's the Wraiths have. Definitely one of those ghosty looking dudes.
Take the mages, it's good experience points. There's got to be something on the mages that's nasty. There's got to be a reason that they're running away from all of them. Another interesting part about Final Fantasy One, the randomizer, is spell management and knowing when to let loose with some of your spells and when to hold back in order to get yourself through dungeons.
Yeah, the randomizer maintains the mechanic that this game has initially, which is every set of every character that can cast spells can learn up to 8 levels of magic. Each one of those levels has up to 9 charges that they can have at full rest, and you only can get those back by using a house on the overworld or by staying at an inn. Nice little high five from our runners there.
Alright, so Demerine is, I think, already checked most of the chests on the previous floor, so finally going to get a look at some of these deep chests here in Ice Cave. And hopefully we'll have our first look at that incentive chest. Well, there's not much left that could be required.
The only thing our runners need, or at least that Demerine needs, because Syl has not been to Mirage Tower to pick up their Oxyale, is the rod. Any other item would either be a dead end or a possible fetch quest that you could turn in. If Demerine and Syl find, say, the crystal or the herb, they'll have to go to that NPC and turn it in and get some other key item, and who knows what that's going to be.
I suppose the tail is also out there somewhere. That is the other thing that our runners could find.
Yeah, the three big items that we're looking at as dead ends are the rod, which we want, and then we could get the floater, which is useless. We already have an airship. We could get the tail, which would be nice for a promotion. We could get a Thor hammer, which useful spell, and it's the adamant, which is a fetch quest item that you don't know whether or not it's going to be the floater or the rod, so you've got to go turn that in.
I think actually our runners technically have the floater, since this is a free airship seed. I think they just both neglected to check it off on their trackers.
Yeah, I'd have to look at how that's handled under the hood. Replace floater with Thor hammer, because while being able to cast Freelet 2s is useful, it's not progression.
Ooh. Sylverfyre finds the power gauntlet here in Ice Cave in a chest that Demerine passed up. The power gauntlet is a great endgame piece of equipment, not for wearing as armor, but because it casts the Saber spell in battle. Saber giving the person who uses it 16 additional attack power and some amount of accuracy. I don't remember how much it is exactly. But definitely the attack power buff is what it is used for, in dealing a lot of damage in the end game.
And our Dwarven Smith turns the adamant into the Rosetta Stone, or the slab, which you have to take to the professor in Melmond, of all places, to get it translated before you fly up to Lefane, so you can actually talk to them, because they only speak Lupa, and get the item there.
See just how deep this fetch quest chain goes. I have a feeling this is going to be a long one.
Same. And especially because there aren't that many key items left. All all the fetch quest items have to lead to something. And so when you're running low and you see that you haven't done a lot of them, you start to get nervous about how much overworld running around are you going to have to do at this point.
Yeah, I think obviously the big pickup here would be the rod, because at that point, Demerine would no longer need to be fetching after items. And at that point, it's just, do you open chests for looking for equipment, or do you continue opening chests, or do you skip chests rather, to save time? Although in this case, we find the tail, which is going to be useful to promote, but not the item that we need for the end game. Not the item we need to end the game.
So at this point, I'd like to open the question up to both Vani, Shadowwalker, and chat. We've got a couple of places left that we haven't checked yet. We can still go down to the second and third floors of Earth Cave. We have not seen anything in Sea Shrine, and we have not seen the second floor of Mirage or any of the Sky Castle. Where is the rod? Or, I guess, the fetch quest item that starts off the chain that leads to the rod.
Well, I mean, if they have to fight the War Mech, then I really hope that it's in the Sky Castle.
Trying to think. So, we know that as far as dead-end items go, we've got the rod, we've got the Thor hammer, the ruby is a dead-end item as well. As far as incentive locations left, we've got the sages after defeating the Lich, we've got Sarda after defeating the vampire, and I think that third item has to be loose. I think all the other locations have been checked outside of fetch quest chains. So what I think that means is that either there is a rod loose in the world, or you have to go kill the vampire to talk to Sarda to either get the rod directly or get sent on a fetch quest that leads to the rod. And I'm going to put my money on the vampire being required to go get the rod like it is in the vanilla game.
Oh god, vanilla.
But we'll spice it up. We'll put it like 3 fetch quests deep.
I mean, okay, fair. As long as you're adding that twist.
Yeah, it's just like vanilla ribbons in ice cream. It's not actual vanilla.
My personal bet is it's going to be some awkward corner of the second floor of Sky Cave or Sky Castle.
So this room that Demerine is just in, this reverse C room, is a surprising chest. In the vanilla game, you can't get into the Sea Shrine without having the Mystic Key. But for some reason, the chest that's in that room is actually locked with the Mystic Key. So sometimes the randomizer likes to be a real troll and put a required item hidden in that chest, and then hide the key somewhere. And you will have to go back to this room after finding the key somewhere else to get that forgotten chest and find whatever hidden item is in there.
Oof. Wizzahogs have a stun touch this seed and really bullying Demerine there. Unfortunately, because of the way the randomizer works, we have to force that Wiz-Sahog, Red Sahog party to be unrunnable. Because of the underlying properties of the game's mechanics, they're paired against the pirate fight in Provoca. All fights have this sort of A-B side to them. And so those unrunnable stun touch Wizzahogs that hit like trucks are going to make this Sea Shrine dive interesting.
Yeah, you never want to see a nasty skill or spell or status attack on an enemy that's unrunnable. And even though the Wizzahags are not normally an enemy you think of as being particularly dangerous, they still hit very hard. This is one of the end of the game dungeons after all, and our runners don't have a whole lot of HP on their light warriors, so getting stun locked by the Wizzahags is not a pleasant time.
Luckily, Demerine might be able to mitigate that a little bit with that defense sword that she just picked up. The defense sword being a pretty reasonable weapon that a knight or a red mage can equip. But more importantly, here in the randomizer, it casts the ruse spell, which increases your evasion just like the invis spell, but by twice as much.
We found a bridge! Hooray for extra experience points and gold. Yeah, the ruse spell is 80 evade in battle, whereas invis is 40. And the max evade that you can get to is 240 with the limitations that the randomizer puts on it. I believe it was technically higher in the vanilla game, but the most you can get is 240 evade. So what that means is with 3 casts of ruse from the defense sword, you will have the max evasion that you can have, whereas with invis or invis 2, it takes 6 casts.
Yeah, and one of the things that you might see runners doing if they have both of those is using that ruse sword on one party member to just have their evasion just skyrocket a little bit while the other party members are dealing with the slightly lower evasion. Usually it's on your primary damage dealer that's doing that.
All right, I'm going to jump in here simply because I'm bored and I don't have any donations to read. So I'd like to tell everybody here that the donations that we are taking here for this marathon are going towards having our RPG Valkyries attend RPG Limit Break this May. It's going to pay for flight and hotels, all of the incidentals and whatnot. And that's all going to be funded by your generosity, which they are kind of counting on. So for all of you that would like to donate to a very worthy cause and for this wonderful marathon that they are putting on there, that link that Scala just dropped in chat, please go ahead and donate there. And be sure to check out the incentives that, boy, Scala, right on point with that. The incentives that you can put your money towards as well. Give me something to do, folks. Come on.
Alright, so Demerine is now diving into the Earth Cave, and I have to think this is a play to go kill the vampire and see what Sard is going to give at this point. We gotta find that rod eventually, so hopefully Demerine will be able to find the rod from that fetch quest chain, and at that point it's a matter of just smooth sailing and playing out the seed. I say smooth sailing like it's just a given that, you know, we're not going to see anything trolly, and, you know, Warmech's just going to be a pushover, and all these bosses that we have to get through are no big deal, but
yeah, and
really not.
As we all know, the Temple of Fiends Revisited is always, you know, just a cakewalk, and nothing ever causes just random horrible wipes down on like Airfloor or something.
No, I mean we've never seen like death touch airs that are unrunnable on the air floor right before chaos.
No, that would just be silly.
Yeah, this randomizer is mean, and it will throw anything at you at a moment's notice. Here's a question: why does Demarine's battle screen look differently from Sylverfyre? Okay, so that's actually one of the options that you can choose under the fun percent values for the Final Fantasy randomizer. Sylverfyre electing to go with the classic look and feel of Final Fantasy 1 as it is in the vanilla game, whereas Demerine has enabled the option called Modern Battlefield, which kind of spreads out the battle, and it looks a little more like some of the newer Final Fantasies, where all of your party menu is on the bottom and the top of the screen is just the action.
Yeah, there's a couple of just fun little options you can do that don't actually affect any of the gameplay. That's one of them. Additionally, there's a music shuffle option. There's an option to do some interesting palette swaps and give some enemies some rather silly names as well.
Alrighty, well, I asked and you folks delivered. I've got a couple donations to read off here. First one is from Leggy Starscream herself. She donated $5 and said, Red Mage, Best Mage, so Red Ribbon Duck, Best Duck. That's how logic works, right? I suppose it is. And then we also have $10 from Curecaster, who says, good luck on the rest of the race and getting everyone to RPG Limit Break. Thank you very much for those donations. And Curecaster, even though you didn't specify an incentive, if you would like to still apply it to one, just let us know in chat, and we will put it to the place that you would like it to go.
Obviously, gotta make sure Red Ribbon Duck wins.
Is there a Black Ribbon Duck? Because Black Mage is actual Best Mage.
Your choices are white, black, red, blue, yellow, and green. Right now, Red Ribbon is the only one that has any money towards it, so it's going to go with red unless somebody else, I don't know, maybe wants to throw some money at making a change there. Could be something you could do, right?
While we've been talking, Demarine's been diving down, exploring the rest of that Earth Cave, while Sylverfyre has been doing a bit of a grind on Tyros. As we mentioned earlier, both of our runners did a good job of maintaining a mental model of the encounter table that's in this game. No matter as you go through the game after a hard reset, the encounters you find in the overworld or in a dungeon are always going to be in the same place each time. And it's always going to be the same encounter, which can contain most of the similar enemies, but for instance, you can sometimes see the Wyvern and the Tyro, or just the Tyro. That's randomly determined when the battle's loaded. So what Syl was doing was, knowing that the Tyro encounter was the first one on the table, and that was only a few steps out, would go beat up a dinosaur, save the game, do a hard reset, walk a little more, beat up another dinosaur, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about kind of the way to manipulate the battles to avoid that first encounter. It does also work in reverse, as Leggy is talking about, where you intentionally take the first encounter. Another interesting thing is, as we're getting into some of the deeper dungeons, especially toward the end game, what can happen from time to time is runners see particularly dangerous fights. And another way that you can manipulate that encounter table is to do what's called burning off an encounter mid-dungeon. So similar to how we were taking the first fight and getting rid of it with a soft reset to just get that extra walk. When you're in the middle of a dungeon, what you can do is you can intentionally take an encounter on a specific floor to skip a particular fight on the next floor. So say as Demerine was diving here into the Earth Cave, and she found a particularly nasty encounter on floor 2 or floor 3, she could take a couple extra steps on, say, floor 1 to trigger the encounter early, fight that enemy, rather than the enemy that's on the next floor.
Yeah, one of the things is that this encounter table is randomized for every single seed if you check that flag, and most runners do. This is a strategy that works in vanilla, except it's, always going to be the same encounter table.
Yeah, and I know Gyre does a lot of vanilla Final Fantasy 1 speedruns, and in some of his, especially the world record runs, the encounter manipulation goes really deep in the vanilla Final Fantasy 1 speedrun for the NES. Insofar, I think, as encounter manipulating the entire run, if I recall correctly.
And we have a vanilla rod from Sarda.
Well, I guess I called it. I was hoping for a little bit of spice to be thrown in, but the flavor of the day is vanilla for the rod.
So that's a little spicy. It'll be interesting to see when Sylverfyre finally gives up and decides to just go beat up that vampire.
Yeah, this kind of gives Demerine the driver's seat, having all of the key items in order to be able to progress through the game, while Sylverfyre obviously still has to find that rod, and therefore needs to kill the vampire in order to get that rod. That kind of gives Demerine the option of choosing how she wants to play out the rest of the scene. Now, obviously, she does not know that Sylverfyre does not have the rod, but that she's now in the option of what's called go mode, where you have all of the items you need to beat the game. Now you just need to choose: are you content with the gear that you have, or do you continue to dig chests and spend time to look for more gear opportunities?
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, Syl does have the advantage of grabbing that chest down an ice cave that contained the power glove, which is such a useful endgame item to have because it'll be able to be used in battle to boost your physical strength basically through the roof. And so even with Demarine's advantage, if the Temple of Fiends turn out to be a little rough, and given that Temper is a level 7 black magic spell, I think Red Wizard learnable, but I don't recall whether or not it was the top slot or the bottom slot in the spell shop it was in. I don't know who I would necessarily give the advantage to until we get a look at what the Temple of Fiends has in store for us.
I just want to jump in real quick. I want to point out that that most recent link that was there in chat. That's for the RPG Valkyrie's own Discord server. If you are not a member of that server, I encourage you to join. You will get all kinds of updates on other events that they put on, as well as different runs or particular streams that the Valkyries might be doing on this channel as well. So if you enjoy what you're watching here and you'd like to see more of it from this group, be sure to join that Discord server.
I think one thing that's still very interesting to me is that both of our runners at this point have the tail. Neither of them has promoted, but neither of them has stopped to do a real black belt grind. And typically, what runners will do when they're trying to grind a black belt is they will kill off most of their party members, probably leaving just the black belt and maybe one other character for safety, in order to funnel the experience points. And Demerine finds the Masamune in Earth 4. I had to interrupt my own thought because we definitely didn't want to miss that. That is the best sword in the game, having the best raw attack power and the best accuracy. The only way that it gets beat is in critical rating by katanas and vorpals.
And the other major feature of the Mazmoon is that anyone, from the lowliest novice mage to the most mighty fighter, can equip it and use it to great effect. So what Demerine has done is thrown it on the black belt, who isn't going to be doing much outside of punching, and because, like you said, they haven't stopped to do a black belt grind yet, the black belt doesn't have, the Fist of the North Star 8 punches that we usually see from an endgame black belt. And so with the Mazmoon is going to be much more effective. Ooh, that's a nasty stun lock, though.
Yeah, this is not a good position to be in. Fortunately, it does get a run from the fighter. While fighter is a great tank, it's also a really good class at running away, having the third best run stat in the game.
And I think outclassing the black mage after a certain point, the thief, of course, is the best, bar none.
Right, the thief has, especially in the randomizer, just incredible chances to run away. Black mage, I believe, is better up until teens to 20, somewhere in that range, is when the black mage does eventually get passed by the fighter, and then at that point the fighter is just the second best at running away.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at those numbers. As Demerine is taking out the Lich, shoutouts to Lich, we won't miss you.
I always think it's so funny when you get to kill Lich with Quake. It is literally my favorite thing ever once I learned about that. So it turns out that Lich does not actually resist Earth Element. And not only that, Lich has very low magic defense. So Quake has about a 38% chance to kill Lich on the first visit, just outright. And even in the Temple of Fiends Revisited, his magic defense only goes up a little bit, and it still has a 28% chance to just one-shot Lich. So it is my favorite thing ever to throw him down a crack.
So Sylverfyre found an eye. And for those of you who are familiar with the PSP and GBA speedruns of this game, eyes are a good spot to grind. And the nice thing about this one in particular is that it's safe. As you notice, Sylverfyre is jumping up and down between the tile that the eye is on and one that is on the top edge of the bottom of a room. Because of the way that Final Fantasy I works and how it handles encounters, that particular spot of a room is not going to have encounters on it. So they'll just be bouncing up and down, killing eye after eye after eye after eye. And I'm expecting their party to go straight into the stratosphere. Or, well, at least some of the members.
All right,
Yeah,
I'm going to jump in here with a donation. Scala herself donated $4 and said, had to kick us to an even 1.4K. This goes to unlocking the duck races and another read silly words challenge for Bonnie. Waffle, Bandersnatch, Jalopy, and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Hashtag not sponsored, just hungry. So thank you very much for the donation, Scala. And as much as I love an even 1.4K, I would love even more an even 1.5K, because that would get us to exactly half of our goal, and we wouldn't even be done with day 2. So if we could make that happen, let's say, I don't know, before the end of this race, that would be phenomenal. So Scarlett, thank you very much for the donation.
So Sylverfyre has popped away from those eyes, and it looks like they're killing off some of their party members, just wasting turns using useless items in this fight against the ghosts. Looks like they're going to grind just that white mage and the black belt, and I hope you're ready for punching, because we're about to get punchy.
We're gonna punch all of the eyes.
And it looks like Demerine isn't too far behind. It'll be interesting to see if she even checks those chests. I mean, she is technically in go mode. She doesn't need any more items at this point, but might still be looking for that grind spot.
Yep, so we've got Sylverfyre doing some grinding, has only killed off the fighter so far. Probably going to let the black mage and white mage just organically die off from these eye fights, as Demerine is trying to make her own way down into the sea shrine further.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Syl lets the white mage stick around, because then they'd be able to pick up the rest of the party, and, you know, this deep into one of these dungeons, you don't really want to be running around with just 1 or 2 party members. As nice as a level 42 black belt is, there are still things that'll just wreck you.
Alrighty, I'm going to jump in here with good cause. Our other commentator here, Shadow Walker 227, has donated $50 and says Black Ribbon Duck for Black Mage being best mage. So definitely putting his money behind his beliefs there. Shadow, thank you very much for that great donation. And 50 down, 50 to go to get to that 1.5 and halfway mark. Thank you again.
You had to show me up, didn't you?
I told you, black mage, best mage. I have to laugh because there are so many points of contention in the Final Fantasy Randomizer community, and it's all in good fun. We always joke around with each other. But I have always been a proponent of black mage, and many people tell me that I am wrong because black mages are very squishy, which they are. Black mages are very squishy. I am never going to deny that point. But they have many redeeming qualities, which I say makes them the best mage.
So I used to agree with you. I was black mage for life for a long time. Then I had a realization. Red mages have just an amazing hat.
You know, I was going to make a comment earlier that with this sprite set, when the red mage in battle is dead, they look so cozy. They almost look like they're in like a little sleeping bag, and they're just in for a little snoozle, but they're actually dead, which is sad.
No, they're just napping. It's fine. No one dies.
Carecaster, Demerine would absolutely agree with you with the white mage for life. Demerine is 100% team white mage.
Oh my goodness, here we go. So we were 50 down and 50 to go. Well, now we're 0 to go because Conker's just donated $50 and says Black Mage is best mage, goes to Black Ribbon Duck. So Conker's, Thank you very much for that great donation. The Black Ribbon Duck thanks you as well. It has gotten an absolute boon of love here in the last couple of minutes. One thing I do want to note about that incentive is it's great that everybody is putting money towards the colored ducks. However, in order for the duck minigame race itself to happen, that is its own incentive that needs to be unlocked. And a cursory check tells me that we're only 14 out of the $200 to go there. So if y'all want to see Duck Ribbon Wars, which, I mean, who doesn't? We got to start throwing money at the actual minigame itself. Then we can start to parse through colors. So just wanted to point that out to make sure that that was clear.
And it looks like Demerine has also found some of the eyes down here, and he's in the process of killing off various members of her party as well.
Conkers, that is noted. We will move it accordingly.
And now it looks like Sylverfyre is making their way down to the infamous K Honda and his 100 tentacle slap. Oh boy. This Kraken is one of the spiciest fiends because he just starts off with such a high number of physical attacks and a relatively high base damage that if either one of those numbers starts going up a bit too much, becomes brutal on our light warriors.
Yeah, Kraken is definitely one of the most dangerous fiends out there. It is very common that Kraken, even Kraken 1, will just one-shot light warriors and eat them for breakfast. Kraken hugs are very painful.
On the other hand, having those defensive resources with the white shirt and the defense sword, and I don't think either one of our runners has Invis or Invis 2 in their spell list, unfortunately. But those are your best tools for mitigating Kraken's scariness. That said, similarly to Lich being weak to the Quake spell, or at least not resisting it, Kraken does not resist the poison element that the insta-kill spell Brack is a part of, and it's got about a 1 in 4 shot of working. So if either one of our runners want to, they can just start bracking the Kraken.
Yep, both Bane and Brack do have a great chance of landing an instant kill on Kraken and Tiamat, so one nice thing about the most dangerous fiends is they're also very susceptible to instant death.
Indeed. As Syl just does it the old-fashioned way, raw damage, and our two racers are tied in orb count at 2.
Alrighty, gotta jump in here. We have another donation very much worth reading. Shadowwalker227 again coming strong, but this time stronger, donating $100 and says, "My 100, your 5. Let's make this duck race happen." So that kind of sounds like he's calling out chat saying, everyone put $5 towards the duck race. And if we do that, we will get there in no time. So Shadowwalker, again, on behalf of the RPG Valkyries, thank you greatly for that very generous triple-digit donation. That's very awesome, and it looks like if we get a little more help from these folks watching, that duck race minigame will be happening.
Yeah, let's get a duck train going. Those are always fun.
Duck train, best train.
Yeah. Demerine is down just to the black belt. I just saw her hit level 30 with that. 32 is, and level 42 are the two break points for when the black belt gets a few extra punches. 32 gets you up to 8 punches. 42 gets you up to 10. And so it'll be interesting to see how high she takes this, given that black belt's all she got left.
Well, I think at this point, you've got to take the black belt high enough to one-punch Kraken. So it doesn't really take that much longer to get from 32 to 42. So I would just be safe, go straight to 42, put that black mage up front, so that way most of the normal enemies are just going to run away from you. And then just go Saitama Punch on Kraken and show him a taste of his own medicine.
And given that I just saw that black belt hit a 33 and Demerine go right to it, that looks like exactly what's happening. While Sylverfyre is opting to beat up some dinosaurs instead.
Oh my goodness, couple more donations have just come in. Got to read them off. Absolutely Trusty donated $5 and said, donating for amusing duck race. Lay egg is true. They also included a YouTube link to a mechanized duck doing a little dance, which was actually pretty cute. And we also have, I hope I'm saying this right, Evipen, who donated $25 and said, duck race, let's do this. So to both of you, thank you very much for the donations, and they will be applied forthwith.
Leggy, did you see what level Sylverfyre took their black mage to? Or black belt to, rather?
No, I haven't yet, but it looks like they're working on beating up some dinosaurs. And the next time we get a level up on their side, I'll be sure to call it out.
Yeah, looks like somewhere above 21, but less than 32 right now. But punching dinosaurs is another great way to get some experience points, so we'll see where Sylverfyre goes toward.
It looks like Syl's black belt just hit 28. Also, come on, chat. We're grinding. Now's the best time to get your donations read. If you throw in money for the duck race, now is a great time to do that.
Look at that, unbuffed. We just saw Demarine's black belt do 8 hits for over 1,000 damage. That is the raw power we talk about when we're talking about doing a black belt grind. This is the reason that black belts are capable of one-shotting Fiend.
And that's not even at the black belt's full potential.
This isn't even her final form! I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Never apologize for the memes.
Yeah, and I also can't help myself from talking about these donations as well. As EpiPen has pointed out here in chat, we only need $6 more to get that duck race to happen. So who is going to be the one responsible for throwing at least $6 at it and getting that duck race to happen? Also, there are some incentives that need to be met for the game that precedes that, which is actually what's coming up pretty soon here in Earthlock. There's the Princess and the Frog skins, as well as the optional Hollow Knight fight. So be sure to check out that incentives sheet that Scala just posted. Also, be sure to check out that donate link that she posted as well. That's how you can throw that money down. And again, be sure to make it clear in your comment where you'd like it to go, and we'll make sure that it goes to what you want it to be.
All right, so
Well,
go ahead.
that didn't take long. EpiPen came with another $6, said needed to happen. Leggy Starscream comes right over the top with another $6 that just says quack, 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 quack. Even though neither of you stated explicitly where those should go, I think I know. So I will say this. EpiPens came in first. So Leggy, with that now being met, I would say let us know where you'd like that to be put instead.
I mean, there's another incentive that needs to be met in an earlier run, right?
Yes, if you mean a run happening before Shenmue 2, there's two incentives for Earthlock. There's the Princess and the Frog skins, as well as fighting the Hollow Knight. Both of those are a decent distance away from being met, so those could definitely use some luck.
Let's go for the Hollow Knight then.
You got it.
All right, Demerine now level 42 is quite happy to punch her way to victory, and is destroying some enemies in the Sea Shrine. Oh no! Lobsters have stun touch.
That is... Oh gosh. Oh no. Oh, that is heartbreaking.
Oh, that is literally the worst thing to see after doing a grind is an enemy with a bad status touch.
Loads it back up. Black belt's down to level 18. All of that time, Demerine betrayed by her lobster brethren. Sylverfyre turning that tail in. Black belt's ground up enough. It's time to promote. In this, for our party members, what that means is most characters get a few extra things that they can equip, and a little extra magic. In particular, those black and white mages can learn any spell they want from their respective schools. The fighter gains access to some of the white magic up to the 3rd level. Monk doesn't really get anything, but they can already cast the best spell in the game, Punch. So they're good.
Yeah, what's really nice about the knight getting access to level 1 through 3 magic is that the Cure 4 and Fade both landed at level 2, meaning that those are both knight learnable spells. So that knight is going to be very safe going through the end game, in that it'll be able to cast Cure 4, and even if you're fighting Chaos with just a knight left, Cure 4 can very quickly turn the tides of battle against a difficult fiend.
And we find the fast spell, one of the best buff spells in the game. It doubles the number of attacks you do each round at level 8 in the Lefanian Nuke Shop, which means that Demerine is not going to have access to that. But Sylverfyre will. So I'm going to give Syl a very strong advantage at this point.
Yeah, number one, that was a major time loss that Demerine just took for the wipe. But number two, being able to cast fast it literally doubles your damage in battle. It's the most effective spell in the game when it comes to long, drawn-out combats. Or even short combats, as fast on a black belt can absolutely one-shot almost anything, even on high percents. Unfortunately,
up to
for
and including
Sylverfyre,
Chaos.
yes, up to and including Chaos. Unfortunately for Sylverfyre, they'll need to get at least to level 25 on the Black Mage to even have a single cast of fast in battle. So, while it is nice that we have access to it, it does mean that high levels are required. And yeah, absolutely, Trusty is completely right. The promoted classes of the Valkyries of Light patch are amazing. In particular, I love the promoted White Wizard with the cat ears. That is by far the cutest mage.
Strong agree there. Of course, there is one major hope for Demerine on the table, and that's the fact that Syl has not taken the time to hunt down Vanilla Rod, my favorite musician. And if they spend a lot of time checking extra chests trying to find that rod, Demerine might be able to make up the time that she's lost.
Yeah, Final Fantasy Randomizer is a wonderful exercise in it's not over till it's over. So until you see a runner dot done, never count the race over. As we have seen time and time again, particularly nasty bosses or even normal enemies can very quickly turn the tides of Final Fantasy Randomizer. And thanks to previous donations, we do have a required war mech. So that is definitely a fight that we are going to be looking forward to.
Yeah, at the end of the day, nothing feels worse than getting a random instant death spell hit you straight through your ribbon or through your super-powered monk and their magic defense. But it can still happen, and if the Temple of Fiends turns out to be nasty, or if you go down too many rabbit holes trying to hunt down a chest or two, it's really easy for a dedicated runner who's a little bit behind to catch all the way back up.
Yeah, something I also didn't realize is that Silverfyre does already have level 27 on the Black Wizard, so already does in fact have a couple of fast charges available.
Yeah, so I expect them to make very short work of our new robot overlords and Tiamat when they finally decide to go up to the Sky Cave.
How did it adopt the name of Sky Cave? I don't get that. Like, I can sort of understand calling a volcano a fire cave, but it's the Sky Palace is not a cave.
And what's weird is we don't talk about a water cave. So I forget who started that particular meme, but it's really one of my favorites. Because it's just so, like, it's such an oxymoron. is really what I'm going to say.
All right, well, I want to jump in here real quick just because we've had a rush of donations lately, which has been fantastic. But I want to remind folks what they're donating for, which is to have some of our RPG Valkyries attend the RPG Limit Break event, which is coming up this May. It is in Salt Lake City, Utah. For those that might not be familiar with the event itself, I know we've talked plenty about it, but not about the event itself. It is a week-long RPG speedrunning marathon that happens over on RPG Limit Break's Twitch channel. We actually have 2 of the RPG Valkyries that will be running in the event. That would be Sylverfyre, who you're watching right now, as well as Sparkover. They will be racing each other in a Dragon Warrior randomizer. So you definitely want to check that out, but you also want to help them get there too, because they can't run it live on stage for you if they are not in attendance. So all of the money that you are donating here through that Streamlabs link is going to go towards hotels, airfare, incidentals, food, so on and so forth, to help all of these wonderful Valkyries out. So please keep the donations coming. There's still plenty of incentives that need to be met, like those names that I mentioned before that have plenty of zeros there, so you can toss a few bucks at it. Don't feel like a donation is too small. If you want to just donate a couple dollars, that's fine, because when a lot of people do that, it really adds up. So don't feel like there's any donation that is too small. Please, let's keep those that money coming in. Keep me busy and really put this money towards a fantastic cause. Thank you so much, everyone.
So it looks like Sylverfyre is blasting their way through the Sky Palace, and I don't know if that's just because they're trying to hunt down everyone's favorite robot before they start checking chests, or they're holding off on that vanilla hope.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes a lot of sense to not do a bunch of chest digging on the run that you're going to try and kill Warmech. But it also, there's a bit of sense to be had in trying to explore and find the rod on the way, given that Silverite does not know that rod is in a vanilla location today.
And especially because the Sky Palace does have a lot of chests in it. You've got, I think it's 16 chests on that 3rd floor, and 10 plus on the 2nd and 1st. So if there is a loose item, the odds of it being there is probably pretty okay.
Yeah, I want to say between all of Mirage and Sky, there's something like 51 chests. As a point of reference, that is more than 20% of the chests that are throughout the entirety of the game. There's, I believe, 246 chests. So a huge percentage of chests in Mirage and Sky.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume your numbers are right. I haven't bothered to learn them myself. I kind of play it by feel in terms of Sky really just has a lot of chests, etc.
Yeah, it's a very high number. That's the important part.
Indeed. This robot, on the other hand, is definitely putting on its red trench coat and fedora and running away like Carmen Sandiego or something.
Yeah, definitely being a bit tricksy is Warmech today.
And don't worry, chat. You do not need to get your Bless RNGs out today. You all paid for it. We're hunting down the robot.
Now, I think those that might be more familiar with the vanilla game would expect to see Warmech on that narrow bridge right before you get to Tiamat. But in the randomizer, can you find it in this room as well?
Yeah. Do you want to explain this?
Yeah, that's actually just what I was getting ready to explain. So in the randomizer, we decided that, you know, only encountering Warmech on the Bridge of Destiny was not quite enough Warmech opportunity for us. So we added an option where you can change the rules on where you can fight Warmech. So you can set it to the vanilla setting where Warmech appears as a random encounter on the what's called the Bridge of Destiny, where he is the most rare encounter group on the Bridge of Destiny, and you will fight him 4 out of however many chances. Then there is patrolling, which is what we have today, where Warmech spawns as an NPC and is wandering around the Sky 4 maze, which is the floor that Sylverfyre is on. So Sylverfyre is actually looking for a robot NPC that looks very much like the one that you find inside the waterfall. Only when Sylverfyre talks to it, they will engage in combat with Warmech. And the third option is required Warmech, where Warmech stands as an NPC guarding the room to Tiamat's door. So in order to fight Tiamat, you must kill Warmech.
And one of the nice things about the Final Fantasy 1 randomizer is that we really like putting features out there in the open for people to test. We have an open alpha and open beta that anyone can take a look at, roll seeds, give us feedback, and a new feature coming up. You like Warmech? Well, how about Mormech? Details to come as Demerine takes down her third fiend, the Kraken.
One real interesting bit that just happened that was easy to miss. Sylverfyre actually got into an encounter with 2 fighters on the Bridge of Destiny, and that is actually the fight that replaces the Warmech random encounter if you have the patrolling or required options. So interesting to note that Sylverfyre would have just organically found a Warmech had there not been the patrolling option on the Bridge of Destiny.
And Sylverfyre takes down the Fiend of Air, Tiamat, for their third orb. Demerine climbing up the Mirage Tower.
And Justin MDP says, Mormech sounds like every enemy is Warmech, which sounds equal parts terrifying and horrific. It's not quite all mech. Mormech makes Warmech a more frequent encounter. I'm not going to give specific details on that just yet. There is a fun option that already exists in the randomizer where you can randomize encounter zones. And there's a variety of settings, and one of the options is a true randomization of encounter zones. And that adds the possibility of any enemy being almost anywhere outside of the initial starting area. And in that particular set of conditions, it is possible to encounter Warmech anywhere.
And speaking of encountering Warmech, Sylverfyre has engaged in metal-on-metal combat with that robot.
Yep, so taking a couple rounds to buff up here makes a lot of sense, as we're about to fight what is often the most difficult single enemy of the game, outside of maybe Kraken 2. Throws out wall for defense against all elements for the black belt. Throws up a power gauntlet charge for a saber charge, and we're throwing out all sorts of buffs. And we are going to see just how hard we can hit this Warmech.
9 hits, 1,016 damage, and the robot goes down.
Just a reminder, folks, that the fighting of Warmac was indeed a donation incentive that was met. So again, thank you very much for putting your money towards that. And lest you missed it or say you want more, Demerine still has to fight Warmac herself. So you're going to get to see it again.
Yeah, so Justin MDP brings up a point that they legit never knew you could use weapons as items to do things in FF1. There are a number of items in the game that are castable items, such as, you know, the white shirt, which casts Invis 2, the power glove, which casts Saber, and some of these are really useful. And honestly, most of the vanilla ones are really useful. But there is a flag here that will allow you to randomize what spell those various weapons and items can cast. Sometimes you get nuke sticks, which cast nuke. Sometimes you get
Lamp helms.
which
They cast lamp.
which removes the darkness status effect from your party, which is not something our runners ever really worry about.
I believe it's specifically a single character that lamp targets, not even the whole party. If it targeted the whole party, it might be an okay spell. Nuke sticks are best sticks, though.
Yeah, shoutouts to the PSP speedrun, which gets a legitimate nuke stick, because those exist in that version.
Yeah, today we have vanilla castable spells from our items. When we do use the item magic flag, the items will actually change in name to denote which spell that they have rolled as a castable. So you will actually see the name of the spell.
And a part of the fun of that is that the defense sword has no symbol or name or any indication after it of what it is. So sometimes you just pick up nuke. Sometimes you just pick up lamp. It's wonderful and honestly a ton of fun. It looks like Sylverfyre has decided to die on the hill of the vanilla rod, which, as we know, is the correct play.
You know, the defense sword rolling the lamp might be the single greatest use of the lamp spell, because then you just find a lamp in a treasure chest. That actually seems like a legit thing that would happen.
I mean, I played Z3 once.
Okay, folks, so I'm back to being bored again. I haven't had any donations to read in a while. So want to remind you that we've got plenty of incentives coming up here. Like in our next run here, Earthlock, there's two things that need to be met. There's Princess and the Frog skins, as well as fighting the Hollow Knight. Both of those are incentives that are a decent amount away from being met. We now have a duck race minigame that is happening in the Shenmue 2 run. As far as which duck they're going to be betting on, you have 6 choices, each of them wearing a tiny different colored ribbon, and you can donate towards that. After that, Final Fantasy IV Unprecedented Crisis, naming Cecil and Kane, names to be had there. How you kill Zeramus, the weapons you want to throw there. There's an incentive here in Lunar 2 Eternal Blue that will get High Spirits to sing. Why this has $0 next to it is completely beyond me. So, and there's plenty. So like I said, I've been saying this several times. There's plenty of names for characters that are coming up, and I see a whole bunch of zeros here. So toss some dollars at these names Get them named after someone you like, yourself, your favorite meme, whatever. There's plenty of reasons why you would want to donate to them. Oh, and I'm going to shut up now because we have Warmech over on Demarine's side. Okay.
Yeah, we do have a giant robot fight going on, but I do want to point out that it seems like Sylverfyre forgot that they didn't actually have the rod because they went up and talked to the plate, got confused when nothing happened, and luckily didn't get punished because they just got their vanilla rod straight from Sarda and are now back to beat up a undead Christmas tree.
So, not only did Sylverfyre miss that Warmech has nuke, Sylverfyre missed that Warmech has back-to-back nuke, and Demerine found that out the very hard way.
Woof. Yeah, no, I was overwatching Syl's screen, and I turned my head, and Demarine's back in the desert, and that is very unfortunate.
Yeah, Demerine looks like she's got to be feeling a bit frustrated. At this point, I don't know a runner that wouldn't be. You take a wipe after a long grind, and then you find out that Warmech has back-to-back nukes. That's never what you want to see.
It also looks like Scala is looking for affirmation from you two about the horrible atrocities that she has committed here tonight.
Scala, did you roll an evil seed? A little bit. A little bit.
I mean, it definitely has some spicy elements to it, but frankly, that's kind of how this game goes. With these enemies as tough as they are, I'm unsurprised that there are these nasty things working around various corners.
Yeah, unfortunately, Demerine didn't find the Tyros off the first fight of the power cycle outside ordeals like Sylverfyre did. That is probably the most ideal place to grind, given that the eye tile we know is very deep in Sea Shrine, and while it provides great experience points, it's very out of the way to go all the way back there. Looks like Demarine's going to opt to use the quote Sharknado tile, dubbed so because it has the Gur sharks and Wissahags.
Yeah, Demerine getting a little more grinding before going back to take on a robot and the Queen of Dragons, while Syl gets ready for their first dive and our first look at the Temple of Fiends Revisited. Wait, why is Syl using so many tents?
So I believe what Sylverfyre is doing is using tents to get them out of the inventory, intentionally burning all of them out. And what that's going to do is it's going to line up the heal potions into the leftmost column at the bottom row. So that way, menuing, when you want to heal your party members very quickly, all you have to do is press up from the menu and you are immediately at your heal potions. It saves a good bit of time menuing in a hard topher where you're using a lot of heal potions. Just that one little bit of time spent burning off those tents can probably save 30 seconds to a minute of heal potion usage.
Yeah, so one of the big strategies of this game is keeping your tents and cabins and houses down low, because unlike a lot of later Final Fantasies, you can't actually reorder your inventory.
Alright, looks like Sylverfyre's running around just doing a little bit of shopping, making sure everything is tip-top shape before we go into Topher. And this is something that you'll often see runners do, is just make sure you have all of the resources available at your disposal, because a prepared trip into Topher is far more likely to succeed than an ill-prepared trip into Topher.
Yeah, when you go into the Temple of Fiends Revisited, you start off on the first floor. You have to go up to the third, past what is normally the Phantom in the vanilla game, where the loot tile is. Break that, go back down to the first floor, and then go through 4 floors based off of the 4 elemental fiends you've been fighting in the intended order that you're supposed to fight them. So the first basement we like to call Earth Floor, then Fire Floor, Water, then Air. And it's a long, grindy dungeon, because not only do you have the elemental fiends again, they're buffed. They have way worse stats and skills, and good news for runners, all of the repeat fiends, Chaos and Warmech, have all their stuff put into a pool and shuffled up together, so you don't have to worry about seeing those out there in the wild.
Kirlaus in chat, forgive me if I mispronounced that, asking where do you find this randomizer? You can find the randomizer at the website www.finalfantasyrandomizer.com. At that site, you can use the options there to randomize a copy of the ROM that you have, and shuffle up all the settings and play a very fun version of Final Fantasy, custom tailored to what you want.
Yeah, and if you're not interested in looking at the random side of things, but you are interested in experiencing this game, maybe with some of those nasty little bugs from the vanilla version patched out, such as the fact that the temper and saber spells, which you see runners here using to great effect, those don't actually work in the vanilla version. But there are, if you go to the website, there is a button that says Improved Vanilla, which goes through, does a whole bunch of bug fixes, but keeps everything else where it's supposed to be. Not only that, you get a lot of useful speed hacks, like most of what you're seeing here is going much, much faster than it would in the vanilla version, both in terms of movement and screen transitions.
Yeah, and if you're a member of the RPG Valkyries, there are a number of people that you the RPG Valkyries Discord. There are a number of people that you can reach out to in the Discord that can point you in the right direction to check out the Final Fantasy Randomizer Community Center, where we have a lot of resources and a lot of people who play the Final Fantasy Randomizer and would be thrilled to talk about Final Fantasy 1 ad nauseum. So definitely come check us out.
Yeah, your current comms team and our runners are all very, very active members there. As, yeah, Lich 2, kind of a roadblock most days. Can be nasty if he gets a particular, skill set, such as that vanilla nuke. Ugh. But usually not the fiend you need to worry about.
Speaking of the community and coming together and whatnot, it looks like somebody tried to post a link for the Final Fantasy Randomizer Community Center Discord. Unfortunately, links are mod only for this channel, so if either of you would like to slide me that link, I will go ahead and post it here in chat so that people can see it.
Leggy, do you mind taking over on commentary, and I will get him that link?
It looks like Neon Gray in chat, who does have, the Mighty Sword of Modhood, is on top of it for us. Neon Gray, also one of the administrators of that community.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Neon. Much appreciated.
All right, so here we have Carry 2, who is actually a fiend, and also takes big punches from Black Belt, but not before doing a lot of damage to that poor Black Wizard. Going to use up several heal potions or spell.
And now we're up to the real terror of the Temple of Fiends Revisited, Kraken 2. If you thought Kraken 1 was already bad, just wait till you see the meaner version.
Yeah, sylverfyre has actually made really good time coming down the Temple of Fiends Revisited. Already being on the water floor after just a couple of minutes is doing very well on this.
It helps when you can, punch with the power of the God Fist.
Yep, Fist is absolutely the most powerful single target spell in the game. Alright, so we are about to get our first look at Kraken 2, and we will see how this... Ink is a free turn. We're always happy to see Ink because the darkness status effect is really, really bad. So, we're not just memeing on the darkness spell and Lamp being a terrible spell because it's only curing Lamp. Darkness really only lowers a character's accuracy by 40, and given that most of the time your accuracy value is somewhere around, 120 to 200%, it really does not matter.
Yeah, and it looks like Demarine's down to the solo Black Mage. Just hit 34, might be hitting 35 off this fight. And that implies to me we're going back up to 42 there.
Yeah, I think after seeing the back-to-back nukes out of Warmech, 42 is the right answer. You absolutely need to make sure that you're going to be able to survive 2 nukes. And the only way to do that is to get a lot of HP on that Black Belt.
And sylverfyre is now on Tiamat 2, having taken out Kraken with what appears to be very little difficulty and a lot of punching.
Yeah, Neon Gray, comparing the upcoming Chaos Rush tournament that the Community Center Discord is going to be putting on to the Appleseed seeds from Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise. They are incredibly fast seeds. Obviously, there's always a bit of randomness, so that can fluctuate, but I believe the record holder right now is... Actually, let me look that up real quick.
Well, while you do that, sylverfyre is pulling Chaos. You talk to Chaos 3 times down at the bottom of the temple to start the fight. And right now, it's the last minute chance to save. Well, not save, but at least heal up and get ready for the big guy himself.
Man, blink and I missed Tiamat too. The record holder right now is Crab Cakes with a time of 14 minutes and 15 seconds for the literal fastest Chaos Rush seed that we've seen. An average time being more along the lines of 25 to 30 minutes.
And if I recall correctly, there have been a couple of races of those already to start working our way up to the upcoming tournament. And I've been having a ton of fun with them. They're really short and bite-sized, and I'm just waiting for that first punch to come out from Sylverfyre. 5 hits, 574 damage.
Five hits for 904 damage. That's the damage we're looking for. Does Chaos just have really high evade? That black belt is fasted, right?
Yes. So yeah, that we're hitting about 25% of those punches, which woof. But Chaos goes down. GG to Sylverfyre with an official time of 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 35 seconds.
Alrighty, so everyone get your GGs out in chat for Sylverfyre. She is the victor today in this race, and it looks like Demerine is going to take another stab at fighting that Warmech, as your donation dollars have forced her to do. So let's be sure to cheer her on as she takes on Warmech.
You got this, Demi. You got this.
We believe in the power of Tiny Tina's explosive punches. Oh hey look, an eye! As if to taunt Demerine. That's insult on to injury.
Yeah, when you're going through the Sky Castle early on, finding those eyes feels really good because they're just really free and juicy experience point.
Hello.
It looks like we have both. Looks like we have both Sil and Dem here in chat with us. So Sylverfyre, GG on your victory.
I just have to say that Scala Kitty's curse runs across games.
It's real powerful. I have not had a run of these flags that took more than 220. And if I don't drop my grind to lobsters, I probably keep that streak going. But yeah, I went for something real risky and paid the price.
Yeah, we were all commenting on how horribly ironic it was that it was lobsters that did you in particular.
Yeah, shoutouts to Demerine's recent rebranding to be the white mage of the lobster people.
They could have let me through. They could have let me pass. But apparently they were unhappy that I had sacrificed my white mage upon the altar of the sea.
Alrighty, well, we are looking forward to what you do with Warmech here.
Does Warmech have over 2,000 hit points? Because if so, I'm in a lot of trouble. Otherwise, I should be fine.
I don't actually know. I punched it real hard, you see.
I mean, my black belt is level 36. Oh god, I hit 4 for 23. The robot's going to murder me in a sec, everybody.
Oh no. Unfortunately, you did not find the power gauntlet. It was the one chest that you skipped on the next to last floor of Ice Cave. Right before the drop down to the incentive chest.
Demerine, you always skip that chest. Why do you skip that chest?
Wait, which chest are you talking about? The
The bottom one.
The
Did I-
10k in vanilla.
Oh, I thought I had grabbed it on the first dive, and so I skipped it on the second dive. I didn't remember that I didn't get that far. I forgot where I died.
Oh.
Unfortunately,
got
that
it.
was the power gauntlet. You did kill the Warmech though, so congrats.
Yay!
Sylverfyre, you did not see what Demerine saw from Warmech
With
though.
the double nukes?
Double nukes.
Yeah, she told me after I was in TOFR. Wow. That would have been real bad, although I think my black belt could have pulled it through. That said, I might have had a tricky time getting back out. Even though I had killed Tiamat ahead of time. And so it would have just been managing to limp across the Bridge of Destiny with whoever survived that.
I mean, you wouldn't have had to go far. At least the big thing is you didn't have to go far to get to the teleporter because of unrunnable sentries.
Yeah. Those I fought so many sentries while looking for looking for Warmech.
Yeah, when you were complaining about looking for Warmech, and I'm sitting here going, unrunnable sentry, I'm like, God, this must have been torture.
Yep.
So did you guys have any other big thoughts as far as the seed went? We kind of know how.
Why was the rod at Sarda with both exit and warp at level 8? Seriously?
Thanks, I hate it. Thanks.
Not to mention that temper at 7 and
fast
in the nuke spot.
Walking to Lafine twice. And then I forgot why I was walking to Lafine, and I was like sitting there staring at the guy telling me Lupa Lupa. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I walked to Lafine. Like I did that, I saw that. Then I looked at my inventory and I looked at my tracker and it's like, I already have slab checked off. I'm not here for that reason.
Right. So, this is the second time that Final Fantasy After Midnight in a Valkyrie's run has ruined me, so I'm leaving. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Demi.
Well, GG Dem, GG Sylverfyre. Thanks so much for both of you running this run. This was fantastic.
Yep. Thanks everyone for supporting the Valkyries. It was lovely to do this, even as it was miserable.
I'm sure everyone enjoys the suffering.
That's the hope.
We
Also,
had some good
I
laughs.
dropped my
along the
white
way.
shirt on the ground at some point by accident. I think.
Did you lose it in the snow?
I
Oops.
guess. I don't know. I didn't notice until I got to like Kraken 2 and I'm like, I don't have a white shirt. Whoops. It was gonna go on the knight so the knight could like do something useful because the knight was still only rocking a sun sword. Anyway, let's go on and see Earthlock. This should be interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, I want to thank, certainly, I want to thank Sylverfyre and Demerine for putting on a great show with their race today. Also, would like to thank Leggy and Shadow for coming in for commentary. It was great to have you both here, giving tons of great insight, and we do appreciate you joining us for this event.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
blast. Thanks for having us.
And I'll see some of you later, I suppose.
Yes, indeed, we will. So, thank you again. Be sure to follow Silverfyre and Demerine, as well as Leggy and Shadow, if you are not already. Obviously, they do lots of Final Fantasy One randomizer. So, if that is your flavor, then they will surely bring you content that you will enjoy. So, up next, we have a run of Earthlock by Professor Palmer. We are going to get started with getting set up for that. There is going to be a restream switch there, so the channel might go down for a little bit. Just be patient, stick around, and we will be back shortly. Thank you, folks.